So then I said, it's a turnip, not a softball. It's a turnip. You know what I'm saying?
Turn down for what?
Oh, God.
God dang it, Bobby, you turned down in my house for what?
Not a softball. It's not a softball.
Oh,
Some people, you
some
know what I
people
mean?
are
You know what
almost
I
as
mean?
annoying as whenever people don't start their shows on time. Crazy.
God, those people are the worst. We're talking
Yeah.
Dante's like seventh ring of hell for them. Oof.
Sorry, we were busy opening Christmas gifts
It's true.
or holiday presents. Sorry, we were busy opening Christmas
Whoa.
gifts
It's true.
or holiday.
Sorry.
Mm.
Some
Man's
stuff
got multiple speakers going.
muted.
Yeah.
It's
We were
crazy.
busy opening up Christmas gifts from each other because it's become a bit of a tradition, as it always is.
As it do.
Two geeks, you get to listen to us. That's your present.
That's
You're
right.
welcome.
We are the present.
You get to see how a professional stream is done. Very, very loose definition of professional. So we did that, which means I got to go buy a bottle of some fancy stuff to use my gift.
It's true. It's
So
true. You do. You do. You need some fancy dancy stuff.
It's really fancy. Sure, I can find something. But speaking of fancy, welcome to the Black Tower Podcast. We're a Wheel of Time podcast. I am one of your hosts. My name's Andrew. I'm the Bajan Mahales. When there's a battle, I'm there to lead from the back.
To lead the Bajans.
Yeah. I can lead from the back, the front, the middle, the top, the bottom, the left, the right. I just slide all around that battle and just slide right up on the inside. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You just got to get up in that battle and wiggle all around.
Just wiggle on around up in that battle, man.
Oh, boy. Oh, yeah.
We got Loyal's Book Club in the place. What's going on? How you doing? How you doing? Oh. Leia wants to see the presents.
Oh, Leia wants to see
Do we show the presents in the episode, or do we make them go to Patreon for it?
I think we make them pay. That is action day. Well, you know what?
We can open them and talk about them and show them in the
presents. We just don't show them the opening of the presents. How about that? And for those of you who are keeping track, yes, I have eggnog, I have Fireball, and I have a peppermint vodka. That is my Christmas cheer in a cup.
Man, I've never wished I was a straw so bad in my life.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Well, this was my gift. I got a box.
That's right. The box did come with the gift. And he gets to keep it. He gets to keep that box. Yeah. Mine came in a box too. Mine's very big though, and I can't grab it. Maybe I can. Maybe
I can grab that big bowl. Grab that big old
Mike,
box.
I don't need your judgment.
You can do it.
Right? Ugh. Besides 2 Geeks, 1 Mike, you're gonna love this.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. It's a sword whiskey decanter. Yeah, so good. So good. You'll be wielding Kalendor in no time.
A flaming sword. Depending on what you fill it with.
It's the sword that is not a sword. It's a decanter that is not a decanter.
That's true. Stabby stab that whiskey.
Stabby stab with the whiskey. We can have some sword fights now. Leia, bring in the stabby stab. All right.
But Josh got me a really, really cool whiskey glass. If you want to see it and many other things in finer detail with more fun and behind the scenes shit, check out our Patreon. You can get to it through blacktowerpod.com, or you can click the link tree down below in the show notes or description. And for just like $1 a month, you can take and get access to all the pre-recording, and we've got some exclusive channels in the Discord where we hang out and chat outside of episodes, and you can recommend show topics and give us even more crap than people can in the public channels. So it's a lot of fun. We send you stickers depending on the tier. There's where you can get the coins. There's different merch things you can get. All the fun stuff that you can do for that. Speaking of that, if you are already one of our patrons that gets stickers and stuff from us for December, apologies. It's been a bit of a busy month. I haven't been able to send anything out yet, and with it being this close to the holidays, um, I'm going to wait until after the new year to send the stuff out, strictly because I don't want anything to get lost in the mail with the holiday shipping. So gonna let the shipping and everything kind of calm down post holidays. I'll get everything sent out first thing after the new year. So apologies on that.
Yeah.
But it's coming. Oh, it's coming.
It's on its way. It's
Speak-
on its way. And for those of you who have yet to figure it out, my name is Josh. I'm the Sorbonne Mahale. If there's any Sorbonnes around, I'm going to Mahale the hell out of them because that's what I do. And
You're
tonight
gonna be sore after my Von Mahale.
we're going to do what we do and talk about the Wheel of Time. That's what we're going to do.
There we go. That's exactly what I'm doing. Planning for government efficiency.
I heard someone
Speaking
once
of,
say, when you
if you're
drink.
shipping,
Oh, I was just going to say, I heard someone once say, when you drink, you're just stealing happiness from tomorrow. And the
go.
older I get, the more accurate that is.
But, bruh. Bruh. And also, when you're shipping stuff, remember that more things than just the postal service exist.
That is
Because
true.
the box you saw Josh hold up is like volume wise, like a third the size of the box I actually sent him.
We learned, sir.
It's just because of the length. It was too long to send in another
You know
box.
what though? You fucked around.
I had to jam it in there sideways.
Out, and that's okay.
What are the holidays for except for fucking around and finding out?
Fucking around and finding out. Y'all, sometimes that's how you got to learn. Sometimes you've got
financial
to
fuck around and find out.
In order to find out. And according, there are mathematic expressions that state the more you fuck around, the more you find out.
Yeah. Well, so that y'all are protected from too much fucking around and finding out that you weren't.
Yeah, we don't want you to find out too much.
Let's make sure that you're prepared for the fucking that's about to come in this episode, so nobody gets too found out that it did. Kate and Michael, take it away.
This episode contains spoilers from the entire Wheel of Time series.
If you have not read the series, you are at risk of being spoiled.
You have been warned.
Risk.
You know what? I'll never forget. I'm going to take us down memory lane. That first Jordan Con that we went to, right? And we were sitting there hanging out in the bar in the hotel, and Daniel B. Green came over and was like, "Hey, can I hang out with you guys for a second?" True story. Shut up. That was true. It happened. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And he came over and he hung around. And we were all like sitting there chilling, just chit chatting, shooting the shit. And he looked up at one point and he was like, "Don't you just love talking to podcast?" He was talking to someone else about Andrew and myself. He's like, "Don't you just love talking to podcasters? They always enunciate so well, and you can tell that they speak for their hobby because they always sound so well." And I was always like, and then we get on this here show and we're like, "What I take Bob with that tank right up in their tank hole?"
But it doesn't help that, like, again, so I said this in the Patreon pre-recording and stuff. So, like, for those of you that don't know, I started like the Sure Smile thing.
Back half of that point. Oh, sorry, yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was going to say there's a back half of that point, and the back half of that point was that Kate and Michael, I'm always impressed by their speech patterns, the way they enunciate their words, the way they sound when they're recording. I love it. It's beautiful, and I aspire to be that articulate one day. So sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. There you go.
No, dude, you're fine. How dare you interrupt on your own show? Who do you think you are?
Who do you think you are, boy?
But so I started the Sure Smile thing, which is like another version of Invisalign, and because of that, I've noticed there comes points or parts where the more I talk, I can tell like I'm lisping, or it's almost like my tongue gets tired of fighting the like little pieces of plastic or whatever in my mouth. And then every once
So
in a while I have to
again, when
stop
Rand
talking.
came to you, boy.
Then there's times where like I have to stop talking and like pull suction on my whole mouth to like to swallow spit because it's just like gathering. And I feel like all like you remember every 90s like school nerd in every TV show that was always like, yeah, there I was doing my math homework.
It's always the one that's got the headgear too, the one that like
Yeah,
comes outside
the
wrapped
freaking
around their
basketball
head.
hoop around their skull.
Dude, look,
That's what I
children
feel
in the
like.
80s and 90s were tortured. If you were not a child of the 80s or 90s, count your blessings. And each blessing is every single year you did not exist in the 80s and 90s as an adolescent person.
Can you check your private chat, sir, here in StreamYard when you get a chance? Yeah, that is the moral of the story.
Also, welcome back, Brother Wolf. Wolf brother. Oh, yeah, here we go.
So,
Oh,
getting into tonight's episode, we're going to be talking about a thing. I hope y'all like the thumbnail. Every once in a while, like I'll think I have like a really cool idea for the thumbnail, and I'll put it together, and it's not quite what I envision, or I'll try to do it in a certain way, and it doesn't work out super well. And I'm like, this kind of looks like campy or whatever. And I'll send it to Josh and be utterly surprised when he's like, I fucking love it. And I'm like, oh, fucking sweet.
dude,
But
I was super excited about this thumbnail, and the thumbnail told me exactly everything I needed to know about tonight's topic. So
what I
I'm excited.
wanted to do was like I wanted to have like bars of light being like the jail cell bars in front of like the shadowy figure.
Ooh.
But just with the way everything was, I just couldn't get it to work, and I had a bunch to do at work, so I didn't have a ton of time to mess with it as much.
And so
So
you did that, and it turned
yeah.
out great, and we're here now. And
And then like I was like, oh well, I need to put either our chibis or us up there, and I put us up there, and I was like, fucking hard hats, yeah, let's go construction.
why do
Why
I
not?
always fix everything?
Bruh.
So,
So
okay, so
this
the
stems.
overall. Go ahead, you go.
All right,
I'm gonna
so
break.
this whole thing has come up from we were looking for topics to talk about a while back, and we came across like a suggested idea about uh did Balefire play a role in the resealing of the bore? Um so that's kind of like the crux of the idea of tonight's episode. Like, was it important? How was it important? That kind of stuff. How did it factor into it? But it's kind of just gonna be a bit of like an overall thing about the resealing of the bore and just kind of wherever we take it. But it's I kind of like that bit of juxtaposition where something that's only perceived use to destroy winds up being crucial to like creation and fixing and repairing.
Well, let me ask this question really quick, and I know we're gonna try and focus on the eventual perfect fix that Rand places at the end of a memory of light. But was Balefire used to create the bore in the first place? I would say yes. Right?
Mm.
They wanted I would imagine that Lanfear helped design the weave of Balefire because she was the chief scientist that was trying to bore into the void, right?
Hmm.
And so I'd imagine she helped create Balefire for the specific purpose of opening the bore. Because that's the only thing that really seems, that's the only weave that we have an example of that really kind of seems to step out of this plane of space-time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Balefire's used. We bore into the void. The Dark One has been not loosed, but almost loosed, right? Or loosed. No, actually, the Dark One was loosed. He was loosedified. Loose Theron shows up, puts his band-aid over it. Now, did he use the Balefire for the band-aid?
I wouldn't think so. So I don't I don't think that he was completely loosed with the bore. I mean, I think the bore was kind of done in the same way that, like, I'm trying to think of a good analogy or a good example, like a pinhole in a dam. Like,
Right,
as the
right.
dam starts to fail, it cracks and you get little pinholes where water comes out. I was thinking about using like the thumbtack through a condom, but that's not really a good analogy because you're fucked. You're fucked at that point. Literally and like every other way. But because like if the Dark One was fully loosed and able to touch and do everything into creation, then at the time we're talking about, because this is like, it wasn't just like, oh no, he's free, and then immediately like they countered and did anything. Like, this was like years and years and years that they were struggling against the Dark One and the Force of the Shadow before we even had the imperfect patch on the board. Which every time I think of it as like, did your like mom or did you ever have like those old patches you would buy from like Walmart for like your jeans? When you got like a hole in your jeans, you would do the patching on them, and it was like restores your jeans to new, but you could clearly see where the patch
Yeah,
was
yeah,
because it was
yeah,
never
yeah.
the same shade of denim. Like the denim pattern was never going in the same way. It was never the same shade. You could always still see like the divot ring from where like the hole actually was. It was like just completely obvious that it was still there. And then eventually the patches would like lose their adhesion and start peeling off. It's like the same way, but I could see Balefire being what made that initial like pinprick hole, and then everything after that is the Dark One kind of pushing his way through, slowly eroding away creation. Because
Okay.
I think like to also understand the Dark One, like to understand that like how it would be patched and broken into, you got to understand like the Dark One's prison is creation itself.
Right.
Like the pattern itself forms like the prison around the Dark One.
Or
Reality as we
the,
know it itself
yeah,
is the prison that confines the Dark One.
it's the boundary between order and chaos.
Yeah. So as far as we know, Balefire is the only weave that is able
Steve.
to destroy the threads of the pattern. So it would make sense if Balefire is what created that first weakness in the prison that the Dark One was able to exploit.
Right.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
the window screen patches. From a distance, it looks fine, but you get closer and you're just like,
You see it. You see it.
oh, the window screen's more patched than screen, which just seems like living with cats. Honestly, just, I think cats love the window screens, and then they get caught in them, and sometimes you just got to sacrifice part of your screen to free the cat.
Yeah.
Mm,
That
Or
happens.
kitty. Well,
Um
or kitty the first couple times, and it's still kind of poor kitty, but also like, have you not fucking learned?
we do know that in the imperfect seal there is still the availability for the true power to be seeping through, right? Or the true source. So the true power, it's the one power and the true source, right?
Yeah, one power and the true source are the same thing. So the true power is through the Dark One, I
Yeah,
think.
okay. And we do know that we get confirmation that the true power is what the Dark One used throughout the 3,000 years of this imperfect seal. That is what the Dark One used to weaken the Quendiar seals. So we've got the ability. Maybe it went from a pinhole to like someone put a mesh over the hole and it wasn't watertight, right? But I think you're right. I don't think Lews Therin used Balefire, especially if the Balefire was something that was used to open the bore in the first place. Then he would definitely not use it because he would not want to use the same thing and make it worse. That I could see that being like a sort of mentality, right? But he also didn't understand fully what he was going up against. And in so doing, he, opened up Saidin to the backlash from the Dark One. He gave the Dark One direct contact to Saidin, which what we know as one of the creator's tools is one of the things the creator uses to create harmony and balance in the universe.
It just gave me a random thought question thing.
Oh, yeah?
Kind of derail. Does the Dark One, I mean, as I'm thinking of this, like, it just seems like I just suddenly realized something that was like a very obvious thing that should be like a duh. That means the Dark One has like his own massive power source independent of like all of creation.
I mean, wouldn't that be
everything else in creation draws its power from the true source and the churning of Saidin against Sidair. But he doesn't pull Saidin and Sidair into himself and then use that as like a boost or a filter for the true power. So he has to have like his own like antimatter or dark matter power source that he gives to people.
Well, if we look at it, let's simplify this to something that we can sort of relate to, right?
So I can't explain why like my brain was never just like, hey, Dark One actually does have his own power rather than just being like, oh, it's like a perversion of the one power through him.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I guess I thought it was because of how he shields his people from the taint on Saidin, but if the taint on Saidin is just the true power, then he's just like, yeah, no, sorry, I'm just skimming my grease off the grill. My bad.
To use it.
I mean, saw, dude.
saw. No, so where I was gonna say,
dude, you got your saw flex in my waffle, bro.
Saw.
Anyway.
If you take the creator and the Dark One and kind of like simplify what they do down to like a tradesman, right? Like, carpenters. Well, they're both going to have tools of the trade. They're both going to have chisels and knives and hammers and mallets and whatever other kinds of, and rasps and all kinds of things that those tradesmen would use. For the creator, we're more familiar with the creator's works. So Saidin and Saidar become the knife and chisel and mallet and rasp. Now, the Dark One would also have a set of tools, but it would make sense that we would not be familiar with that because, for one, he's been sealed away, and for two, like we haven't. When the Eye of the World starts, their knowledge and understanding of the One Power is minuscule compared to their knowledge and understanding of the One Power in the Age of Legends. So like we know that the creator has a rasp and a file and a knife and a mallet. We don't know what he does with them, but we know he has them. And we know that you can take mallet, go big bang, big bong on a something and hit it like, So yeah, the Dark One would have to have his own set of tools, weapons, if you will, things to be wielded.
I mean, yeah. So my brain's kind of bouncing around a couple things. Also, as like people in chat are asking like a bunch of fantastic questions. So, and yeah, I guess this would be the great one to start off with. The one that Leia had asked about.
Start there.
A bunch of soft magic stuff and everything. So when Bidamon and Mirren went to try to discover this alternate power source that they didn't realize, obviously they had no way of knowing that the true power was just the Dark One sealed outside of creation.
Right.
They drilled through the world of dreams. Where all of the realities converge the closest, and the separation between realities is the thinnest. Meaning that would seemingly be the place where the chains on the Dark One's prison hold the weakest. Because it's the thinnest place between everything and nothing.
Right.
Which is something like I keep forgetting, because I don't ever think about them sitting in the Shrome being like, hey, let's drill through the shit, and then like going through Teleron Riyadh to kind of do it. Which I wonder if that's part of what sets up such of a taboo of like entering the world of dreams in the flesh. Could be. So, because the Dark One is imprisoned outside of creation, outside of reality. So his prison cannot be Teleron Riyadh itself. But it would be the spot where reality and what reality can access is closest to the Dark One. And if the drill into the Dark One's prison, that just made a lot more stuff make sense. So if the drill into the Dark One's prison sits in Teleron Riyadh, basically, because that's where the veil is the thinnest, that makes so much sense as to why when people go to Shao Ghul, the landscape and everything around them can be altered, manipulated, and changed so easily by the Dark One differently for everybody. Because it's basically like them kind of walking almost into the gateway into Teleron Riyadh in a way where the Dark One can actually kind of affect things and use almost like what everybody else does in Teleron Riyadh, which also then adds validity to why they show us so much of what people can do in Teleron Riyadh. I mean, in addition to all the other important reasons we see, like, Perrin fighting Lanfear and the dream spikes and everything else. But explaining why, like, that's how the Dark One is actually really having his conversations and shit with people.
They might have also thought that that Teleron Riyadh was a safe place for such an experiment.
Oh yeah, because previously everything you did in there would just revert back to how it was in the waking world. So if things fucked up, they just would go back to how they were normal.
They just go, oh well, that didn't work. Oh dang, that's a whole new line of experimentation.
Yeah. Oh, because it makes me think like maybe they thought of it the same way like Doctor Strange and then would think of the mirror dimension.
Yeah.
Well, you can fuck around in here and it doesn't mess up anything else. Well, until you drill through the mirror dimension and create a hole from it into something else. But this time, instead of drilling a hole into reality, it's now drilled a hole into nothingness that allows the guy that's imprisoned. They drilled the hole into Dormammu to allow Dormammu to fuck with reality, even though Dormammu wasn't reality, but still, you get what I mean.
Yeah. Well, if Dormammu was the dark one, they drilled a hole into the dark dimension.
Yeah. It's like a sandbox.
Absolutely like a sandbox.
It's Gary's mod. Gary's mod Teleron Riyadh edition. Right.
Yes. Oh, dude, that makes so much sense though. So
yes.
Okay.
Yes. His head is exploding.
Success. We did it.
Fun.
Once a year, we blow someone's mind, and that's why we keep doing this. No, so like that brings up a lot of interesting dynamics about what they were doing. And that also explains why, even with Egwene and her extensive training with the Wise Ones, she still believes the One Power has validity in the dream world, right? Because that's the tradition passed down.
It would also explain why the Dark One, presumably at the seat of his power where he's the strongest, still resorted to showing Rand alternate realities, because where he would truly be the strongest is pulling from the myriad of other possibilities and showing them to
mirror
Rand.
Dimensions. Yeah.
So in reality, like, their ultimate last battle of wills was just like Wise Ones trying to show possibilities in the world of dreams.
I love it.
So like the Wise Ones could have been watching the whole thing being like, I would have defeated the Dark One like 20 years ago if we knew this was it.
Now I'm interested.
I mean, minus the channel.
Yeah, no, you're good. And now I'm interested because in Lord of Chaos, Egwene makes the first transportation into Teleron Riyadh in the flesh that we get in the books, right? I'm interested to see if the description of that is similar to what the description of what Rand sees in the cave in the end.
This is the thing, you stepped away earlier, and I brought this up. What if Mirren and Bidamon basically stepping into Teleron Riyadh to do this experiment is kind of what starts the origin story of why it's so dangerous to go into Teleron Riyadh in the flesh? Because the first time the last time they did this, it caused such a big foobar.
Right. Oh, that's the tradition that survives. You can't go into the flesh. It's evil to go there.
Don't do this. It's so dangerous. This shit happens. Because Lanfear would definitely maintain that, like, this is fucking dangerous. Has the Dark One always existed? There's so many good questions in chat. Oh my god. Can you tell we're not used to having this many like questions in chat? There's people actually watching. Oh my god.
You like us.
They really like us. I think the Dark One has always existed because mainly, like, you have the theme of balance. You can't have a creator without a destroyer. You can't have good without evil. And I think the whole like struggle between Rand and Shaitan shows why you have to have an evil. Because if you don't have an evil guy to allow to seed evil in the world, or to allow evil into the world, then it's to me it's the same argument I make against the Oath Rod. Doing good things because you have no option other than to do good things because of your oaths on the Oath Rod, to me, doesn't make you a good person,
right?
Because you can't choose to do anything else. Like,
exactly.
It's just like the old saying goes, like men incapable of violence not doing violence should not be rewarded. Like, you should not be rewarded for not doing something you're not capable of doing in the first place.
Yeah, exactly.
So
if you're not able to do something, like if you do not have the capacity or ability to do something, you should not get rewarded or lauded because you did not do something.
I can see like somebody being like, "Hey, good job for not trying to do something bad," because you can always try, but you don't have the capacity for violence.
Yeah.
Then don't sit there and be like, "Hey, good job not doing something that you already couldn't do."
Ricky Gervais talks about that. Someone was like, because he was talking about, he's an atheist, and someone says, well, what's to stop you from, murdering and all you want? And he goes, I do murder all I want. I don't want to murder people. And if you're only not murdering people because there's a God telling you not to, you're not a good person.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, you've got a point there, sir.
Your only reason for not committing violence is because you think there's somebody stronger than you that will punish you for doing it.
Yeah.
You're not choosing to not do it for good reasons. Like, it's still good that you're not doing it, but it's not like it's good that you're not doing it, but it's not like a noble or laudable decision that you're making.
Exactly.
Just like it's not a laudable thing for Moraine to be like, I'm not lying to you.
Yeah. Yes.
She physically cannot lie.
She
is
physically
actively trying to still she's not saying I'm not deceiving you.
Exactly.
She knows she's deceiving you. She's just not lying.
Which is another reason why forcing people to do something rarely ever works the way you want it to.
What was one of the other questions?
Wolfie asked a really good one. Dark ones always existed.
Oh, here we go. Can the one power work outside of the pattern? If not, it could be what forced the Dark One to find or create the true power, or perhaps the Dark One is from outside the pattern and brings his own power to the world of the pattern. I think to have the one power, it has to, by nature, work outside of the pattern, because it's the churning of Sidene against Sidar drives the wheel of time, which spins out the threads of the pattern, which creates the Agelies.
Right.
Fancy words to say, like, the power working outside of the pattern is what creates the pattern.
Well, and think about it like this too. If the one power is generated by Sidene and Sidar turning against each other, and the true source has its own ignition, its own generation, its own whatever, which if we are to believe the lore of balance, then we would believe it would. I would even suggest that the true source and the one power act against each other the way that Sidene and Sidar do. So when and we see examples of this when Rand comes in, weaves his own realities and says, "Ha, I have woven a reality without you." And the Dark One's like, "Cool. Take a look at what you've created." And everything is like dead. Nothing. He looks into people's eyes and there's just no soul. They're dead. And it's because he's removed the influence of the Dark One. He's removed that seed of the Dark One that exists, that seed of chaos that exists in everyone, and has thus created a two-dimensional, imperfect reality. And no matter how quote unquote perfect he tries to make this reality, it's always going to be lacking the variety that is needed to have a full balanced picture, which is a seed of chaos and a seed of organization, a seed of
spread those seeds out there, man.
Gotta spread them seeds. Gotta spread them seeds.
You gotta have a seed of chance, a seed of randomness, and you can't have randomness whenever you have only one side or the other. Or we have to have a balance of randomness and predictability to a degree. Because if you have only, theoretically, if you have only evil, you have only chaos. And then if you have only good, then you have only order. Right. And there's nothing unpredictable, and it makes life boring and shit. What about this? What if what creates, because we know Robert Jordan loves physics, what if what allows the Dark One to have his own power source is the continuous, never-ending friction of him struggling against his prison? Huh. What if that is like forms its own engine, like a reactor, like he's his own core?
Well, think about the yin and yang, right? The yin and yang symbol, it's often portrayed as stationary. You've got one side and the other side. But like if you're going if you're going lore wise, then yin and yang are always spinning, always circling. Now, let's say you've got the white half, which is the creator's half. Okay. And it's organizing things. As it's going around this circle, it's taking matter and organizing matter. And what's happening is the dark one is chaos. The dark side is following behind and destroying all the organization. And then the organization is organizing everything that the chaos just destroyed, and around they go. And that's what like propels them or pushes them, right? So you've got this eternal cycle of chaos, destruction, organization, and creation. And that's kind of where we get all this from. So when humans, in their thirst for knowledge, thirst for power, bore from the side of creation backwards into chaos, that's an opportunity for the dark one to jump ahead, to get a leap, to get a foot up on the power of organization and the power of creation, right? So this is why it upsets the natural order, because until that happened, until the boar existed, there was no influence, there was zero influence from the dark one inside the space of creation, inside the space of organization, inside the realm of the creator. Then when they balefired and went back into the chaos was like, whoop. Said, sure is hot in these rhinos, and jumped right up into the path.
There were still residual like influence from it. Otherwise, like it would have been like the kind of dead-eyed world that he showed Ran.
Well,
but more so like when go ahead.
I was just going to say at the end, we are to believe, correct, that nobody has access to the true source. It has been sealed away with the dark one, correct?
The true power.
True power.
Yeah.
So it's also gone. So it is literally the essence of the dark one, the essence of chaos, the essence of destruction that has been banished from this side of creation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah. So whenever I think of like creation or the pattern serving as the dark one's prison, I think of it as like a ball of yarn, like a hollow ball of yarn,
right,
being spun out by a loom, right? And it's continuously like the ball of yarn itself is continuously spinning as time passes, blah blah blah, and the yarn is being recycled into the loom and going back into. So like,
right,
in an ideal creator world where there is no dark one, nothing is actually being destroyed. It's just being recycled and spun back out. The boar
just created the most amazing mental image in my head.
You're welcome. The boar in the dark one's prison, which throws another weird loop. And if you're visualizing this if you're visualizing a rotating sphere of yarn, imagine a hole in the sphere of yarn, like almost like a burnt spot, that in and of itself never moves. It stays in the same spot in space time. It doesn't rotate with the ball, so it doesn't spin around with it. It stays in the same spot.
Right.
So before the boar, like that's just my visualization of the whole thing for the majority of the series. Anyway, when I was talking about like the generation of the Dark One's own power, of the true power, if you had a hollow sphere of yarn and you had a guy inside all the time pushing out, trying to find ways out, if you've ever like held on to string or yarn as it's pulled through, it generates heat.
Yeah.
You get a whole bunch of friction. I'm trying to think of a way to explain how he has his own power source.
Yeah.
Like just some ethereal being sitting outside of space-time, cut off from everything, all of creation, with nothing moving really that he can touch. Because when the Boar is perfect, there's a barrier between him and creation.
Yeah.
It doesn't, like, how does he have power to do anything once he can touch creation again? So I wonder if it just comes from the friction of him struggling against his prison while he is imprisoned. And he just stores that up until he can touch creation again.
Okay, you ready for this mental image you gave me? When you brought in the yarn and the knitting, I was like, all right, we've got Maria, the creator, knitting the pattern.
Uh-huh.
And then we've got Maria, the dark one, unknitting the pattern behind her. With the pattern, there are two Marias. I could just see like Dark Maria being like, knitting all of these. And then Maria's like, never.
I yearn for a day where I no longer have to undo your crochet. The pattern of time is a massive Maria crochet blanket.
I love it. I love it so much.
That would be great. So anyway.
Okay, so like the original then topic then becomes, did Rand use Balefire at the ceiling of the Boar? Right? At the very
not
end?
quite. That's not what I envisioned with it.
Oh, okay.
What I envisioned with it was, so leading up to Rand's fight with the Dark One, and almost literally leading right up to it, for books, he has been warned about Balefire and how dangerous it is, and told the cautionary tale of how in the Age of Legends the use of Balefire was outlawed by both sides because of how destabilizing it was to the pattern. So the question then becomes, was the resurgent use of Balefire, did it become or serve a purpose, or was it necessary to destabilize the pattern through the use of Balefire enough to allow the Boar to be sealed back perfectly as it was? If that makes any sense.
Say that one more time.
So basically, did the heavy use of Balefire leading up to the last battle and during the last battle, before Egwene does the Flame of Tarvalon, did it serve a function that wound up enabling the Boar to be sealed perfectly by Rand?
Huh.
Because if you have a net and you have to replace part of it, you can't just fuse the ropes back together. You generally like square knot it or whatever, and it's there, it works, but there's still a flaw. It's not the same. If you have, if you have a wound
together and
if you have a wound and it festers, before you can stitch it closed and try to heal the wound, you have to remove the dead and necrotic tissue.
Right.
So the way I think about it is, does the Balefire serve the function of removing the necrotic threads from the pattern to get rid of all the crazy frayed ends that have been touched by the Dark One, so that then Egwene can do the Flame of Tarvalon to stabilize creation, and then Rand, with everything, can come in and do the patch that basically restores the threads of creation.
Well, that's and what Leia just posted is exactly where I was going to kind of go with this. But I'm also trying to talk and I have to sneeze, and so it's going to happen one way or the other. But anyway,
I think Egwene stabilized creation, because that was the thing. Creation, like reality, was becoming unstable.
Right. Like she was
noticing, what Egwene did with the Flame of Tarvalon was, what Egwene did with the Flame of Tarvalon was restabilize creation. I don't think she completely re-healed all the threads. I think the threads and everything were going all wonky, flippy floppy around, just like during the collapse, right after the bore was drilled and the Dark One's like hammering against creation. I mean, it's no less crucial. It's incredibly crucial, because if you're trying to stitch blood vessels back together during like a transplant, and the vessels are flailing around, you can't do it. You need something to hold
stabilize
the vessels together, so you can stitch them together. I think
that's a really good.
Fuck you, Eamon. God damn it, Eamon.
It's because of where he's from.
Goddamn patron.
We got them there podcast.
You mean patron all and the patron ain't the same person? What the hell?
The patron. No, I like that. I like that.
That's why. That's why I keep saying patron instead of pattern.
I think we can definitely say that Egwene's discovery, and it's discovery, not rediscovery. Egwene's discovery of a weave that will stabilize the loose ends of the thread burned away from Balefire.
By the laws of the Wheel of Time, it has to be rediscovery, but by the laws of the Wheel of Time, it has to be rediscovery. I just think it's rediscovery since Egwene did it last time.
Egwene discovered it last time too.
Yeah.
No,
she rediscovered her own weaves. Egwene can do it now because she did it then, and she'll do it in the future because
she knew she could do it.
Fucking knew she could do it.
So now
it's just like how Harry Potter did the freaking the anime, not the animagus. What the hell is it called?
The wrong books, guys.
No, Harry Potter did the thing with the Dementors and the dough.
Yeah.
And he knew he could do it because he thought it was his daddy.
Petroleum.
The Patronus charm. He could do it because he saw his daddy do it, but then he knew he could do it because it was
did it. He done did it.
And he caused the time paradox and destroyed the whole universe.
I think that Egwene's discovery of the Flame of Tarvalon weave, I think we can definitely make the case that it was instrumental, right? Because if there had been too much Balefire, we know for a fact that Balefire is not felt in one place in space and time. It ripples across the pattern. And so when the Mahale came in with Sakarnan and started busting out Balefire the size of a goddamn Statue of Liberty, like it was a bad day for everybody.
Who had the long black rod? I've heard of a long black train. I ain't heard of a long black rod.
With a cup
shooting out Balefire.
With a cup. Got to get a cup on the end of it for the Sakarnan.
Oh, you're talking about the Sakarnan. Yeah. There was also the long black rod that could do the Balefire.
Oh, that's right. But it was extremely unstable.
It was all unstable, man.
Yeah, it was.
You mean to tell me if you was holding a long black rod and it started shooting out big old hot white beams, you wouldn't be unstable? That's one. You don't want to point that at your face. You'd be doing a Luke Skywalker and knocking your eye out at the very least. I tell you what, right now, you'd be blind in at least one eye. Not me. I learned that from my granddaddy. You don't ever look a long barrel down straight in the eye.
Oh, welcome to the Black Tower Podcast. It's a bigger, blacker tower.
We had our own Cards Against Humanity.
Oh God!
The bigger, blacker deck.
For those of you who thought we were going to have a fully productive conversation without a single dick joke, you were wrong.
But yeah. So Balefire is creating all the freight ends. I think, yeah. So Balefire is burning. Well, I think Balefire is burning back it does create the freight ends. Well,
right.
Retrace. Originally, yes, creates damaged freight ends that allow the Dark One to touch it. The Dark One is the necrosis. He's the necrotic damage. He is withering away the integrity of the threads of the pattern where he can touch it, just like he's doing to the Quendiar seals. They become super fragile. They're not stable. They're not an anchor point. It's like grabbing onto the tiniest twig to support yourself on a cliffside. It'll pull away.
Right.
So the continued use of Balefire winds up burning away the necrosis, but you now have a bunch of unstable threads. So Egwene comes in, uses the Flame of Tarvalon, stabilizes all of the flippy floppy flailing around threads. And this combined effort allows Rand to start with clean ends to replace and restore the Dark One's prison. I mean, because in reality, he's not. I mean, he's repairing the bore, but he's repairing an extra spatial timey wound on creation.
Well, and as we know, the Dark
The
One
bore doesn't move with space time; it stays in the same place in space time. So he's repairing a wound on reality.
I particularly love the move to play Balefire at the end, because you've got this perfect comedy of errors. You've got Mihail, who is desperate to prove himself, willing to do anything to prove himself. You've got Demandred, who is Bliss and is like loyal to a fault. Like, if the Dark One is there, like says do Balefire, he says yes. And we know this from Lord of Chaos, book 6, where Demandred is asked, would you unleash the Balefire? And Demandred even has a chill go up his spine, like, ooh, I don't know if I will, but if you want me to, I guess. And then, of course, we've got Moradin, who's the real Bliss. Well, I guess he's not the real Bliss. I guess Demandred is the real Bliss. But Moradin is the one is, I guess, the Dark One's champion, who will stand and fight. And Moradin also wants the destruction of the pattern. So, yes, Balefire, that's the way to go. So it was a natural play for them to do. Egwene then uses the Flame of Tarvalon to, I like the way you say that, to stabilize that sort of space-time, area, that area in space-time. She stabilizes it, giving Rand the chance to come in. Because I don't think this says that she heals it. I think it crystallizes the pieces in space-time that have been affected by the Balefire.
Well, the way I think about it is, like, when you hear about like heart transplants and stuff, everybody sings the praises of the surgeon doing the work, or the surgeon's doing the work, which is ultimately, it's absolutely earned and deserved. It's incredible work, but it's not just one guy staring at an open chest doing everything by himself. It's not just some huge freaking guy. You got the guy with the sutures working on the individual arteries and veins and stuff, stitching them together. But you also have people there with clamps and support networks holding everything stable so that he can focus on getting the stitching just right, so that everything marries up and works correctly and holds. Which I'm sure, if you're an Egwene lover, I think you have to love this idea, because it means without Egwene, Rand could not succeed. And I mean, I love it. I mean, it's kind of always been the case. I don't think anybody would really argue that. But
I think that's actually something that gives this thought weight, though, because I mean, even in the books, they're like, it's like a week after all the fighting is done, and everybody's like, is Rand okay? And they're like, we sent someone up to look, and there's Tom, and you look in the cave, and it's just two people standing there very, very still.
It's like watching the Sasuke and Itachi fight. They're just staring at each other intensely.
But No, you make a really great point too, because keep in mind, Rand is weaving thousands of powers, not earth, air, wind, fire, and spirit. He's wielding thousands of minuscule threads. The 5 powers that we understand have been deconstructed to a molecular level. And I think he is. I think
Oh,
that
this
time
thread is the
dilation helps.
92nd element. Take a little weave of uranium, asshole. Now you got testicular cancer.
He does. Does the Dark One have testicles? Tune in next time for the Black Tower podcast. Does the Dark One have testicles?
To be that big of a
which
dick,
one
it
is
stands the reason
bigger
you
and
have
which
testicles.
one hangs lower?
Well, clearly the left, because the boy ain't right.
Because the boy ain't right. No, so you've got this situation in which I think stabilizing, because we know she didn't correct the bore, but she did correct the cracks around the bore. So this goes perfectly with what you're saying, that she helped stabilize everything. Well, and then that gave him time and ability to just go cool and sew everything up nice and purty, and to put on his protection, his rubber gloves, so that the Dark One couldn't because that's the other thing. He was wielding Sidene, Sidar, and the true power when he did all that. So the true power acted as his gloves that buffered Sidene and Sidar from the same backlash that Luz Theron fell prey to 3,000 years earlier.
Yeah, there we go. During the last battle, she observed the indirect effects of Balefire on the pattern, and specifically on a rock, experimented with a new weave that was able to fill the void in the pattern with tiny crystals. While battling Mahale, she used the weave as a direct counter and opposite to Balefire, a weave of pure creation as opposed to Balefire's pure destruction. This flame used at maximum power that Boris Angriel could provide, was able to stop a blow of Balefire, then crystallize Mazrumtime's body from the inside out, like freezing him in ice.
Hell yeah.
Multi-hued, beautiful crystal grew from him, uncut and rough. Egwene knew that the flame would have had much less effect on a person who had not given himself to the shadow. Blah, 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 blah. She knew that she had drew too much. So she died while hitting and saturating with the one power everything around her on the Polo Heights. As a consequence, the entire area badly damaged by Balefire got covered like a blanket of crystals coating the ground, filling all cracks with crystal and healing them. Also, all the Shinarans that were surrounding her were immediately frozen into crystal, she herself was turned into a giant crystal column, wide as an ancient leather-leaf tree, rising some 50 feet in the air, having Vora Sangreal frozen in its center.
She literally did the Vegeta self-sacrifice explosion attack.
Yeah.
Only when Egwene did it, it worked.
So
God,
basically, this description says filling all the cracks with crystal and healing them, but that's not the same thing. Like, you can, so if you have a GSW and you fill it with quick clot, you filled it and stabilized it, you have not healed it.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
But it is stabilized, and the person's not going to immediately die from that kind of stuff later. So I think the portrayal of it being healing is a little I don't want to, I'm trying to think of nice words, or words that don't sound like I'm being mean, but I think it's inaccurate. I think that she basically filled in the spaces that had now lost any of their stabilization. So like whenever you weave patterns, you have a bunch of threads that crisscross. You have a bunch that lost, so now they were sagging. And where they had no threads to support their structure, she created the crystals that held them up and helped support them until they could get their structure back, or their structure could grow back naturally. Because it's also possible that Rand only patched the area of the bore, and the rest of the areas that Egwene stabilized only remained stabilized by the Flame of Tar Valon until they got completely spun around and recycled by creation.
So, okay. So, if Taim and Demandred had not unleashed Balefire, it would not have been necessary for Egwene to unleash the Flame of Tar Valon.
I don't think Rand's sealing of the bore would have succeeded.
With if Taim never. Okay, so here's going to be my final thoughts. Here's going to be my final thoughts, and I'm going to kind of contradict you here. I'm going to kind of go against you here, because to me, when the description you just gave, where Egwene saw the voids, she cast the Flame of Tar Valon, the crystals went in and healed those connections. To me, that says, I've got a knife wound in my arm. Okay, that's the bore. And then someone else comes and cuts another line across it. She heals the thing she can, which is the line across it. She can't heal the big piece, the big cut, right? So then I still have to go to the doctor for that. Now, would the doctor be able to heal my arm if the other damage had not been done to my arm? Sure, absolutely. Was it easier? Sure, absolutely. I don't think that the Balefire being unleashed was necessary for Rand to do the sealing of the bore, but I do think that without Egwene healing the damage from the Balefire, I don't think Rand would have been successful. I don't think he would have been able, even buffered with Nynaeve and the Shan-Chan lady and Kalendor, even buffered with all that, I don't think he would have been able to have enough power to close the bore, create the perfect seal.
She sacrificed. She tried hard.
What?
Eggianan or Olivia.
Olivia. I don't think that he would have been successful if Egwene had not healed the damage done by Balefire. But I do think that if they had never done that damage with the Balefire, that Rand would have been successful in sealing the bore. Does that make sense?
No, I get what you're saying.
It was a stroke counterstroke. The Dark One wanted Balefire unleashed because he wanted to ruin Rand's chances of sealing him back behind creation.
No, I get you.
Those are my final thoughts. Fuck you, Andrew.
I mean, I'm not the person that forgot all about Eggianan or Olivia's name.
Olivia, not Eggianan. Eggianan was the Shan-Chan lady.
They're both the Shan-Chan lady. They're both the same person that offered to that bonded.
Olivia's the channeler who was the Damane, who was way more powerful than Nynaeve, and was really, really good at killing people. And she was an anomaly because she had been a Damane for like 100 years or something.
No, she had two different fucking names. Well, I'm wrong because Eggianan is the one that married Baeldomin.
Yeah.
Never mind.
And Eggianan and Baeldomin both were bonded to Egwene as warriors.
Wait, no, that was the same one because doesn't she...
Eggianan can't channel.
Or is it Leolwyn that her name becomes?
She becomes Leolwyn shipless. Yes.
Yeah, so it's still wrong. Yeah, it's Leolwyn that offers to bond herself to Egwene to keep her strong enough to fight the last battle.
I'm talking about the Shan-Chan former Damane, who was more powerful than Nynaeve, who was one of the people who was linked to Kalendor in Shale Pool.
Okay.
That's what I was talking
okay. I was thinking a completely different thing.
Right.
I wasn't thinking Dark One's Hole. My bad. Anyway, going back to the thing that I think I'm right about and not clearly wrong about. Yeah, my bad. I got my Sean.
No, you're good. You're good. It's only like there's like 2,000 characters in this book. Like, fuck, get it right.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Well, I mean, there are like 2 Sean Chain that are actually worth remembering for doing good things, and like,
True.
I think the Balefire was necessary, but I don't think the Balefire necessary starts with like the Balefire that happens in the last battle. I think the Balefire necessary starts with Rand.
Oh, okay.
When Rand starts his very liberal usage of Balefire. When he's like, well, I'll Balefire this Darkhound, and I'll Balefire this Darkhound, which is like, okay, that's reasonable. Then he's like, what's that? Netram's Burrow? Balefire. Let's just go.
Or like,
let's pull it.
Natron's Barrow.
let's pull to pull from real world things that have legitimately happened in our own history. A certain unnamed Middle Eastern country who starts with an S and may end with an area, whose leader turned an entire city into glass because he was angry.
Yeah.
Well, not the current leader. Well, no, definitely not the current leader. Not the previous current leader. Previous leader's dad did that.
Yeah.
But to me, like Balefire stacks, because if you have the Dark One's old tainty bunghole boar just dragging itself across the pattern threads as the pattern turns, it's dragging its taint across the pattern like a dog with worms across your brand new white plush rug in the living room. So it's leaving little taint particles all over the place.
Little
and
particles of taintiness.
And as much as like Balefire destabilizes the pattern, it also burns away the necrotic parts of the pattern. Because if you're the guy that's aiming to destroy all of creation, if you're trying to destroy the pattern, god damn,
that's what it is now. It's the pattern now.
I can't wait to be done
with the pattern.
Jesus Christ. If you're trying to destroy the age lace, then you're going to try to corrupt everything you touch, which is what he does all the time anyway. And I think just the Dark One's touch by nature corrupts. And you're going to have to remove that necrotic tissue. And it's going to be painful. It's going to hurt. It's going to seemingly cause more damage as it happens in the moment, which is what Balefire does. It causes more damage to the pattern in the moment. But even the most destructive of things can serve a constructive purpose in the long run. Radiation is very, very destructive, and its first uses were incredibly destructive. But now we use radiation to save lives from cancer, to see tumors before they're able to grow large enough to cause massive complications. An incredibly dangerous, destructive thing that we can now use to save lives. So I think you had to burn away the damaged and necrotic threads to make them available for use. You had to basically burn the Dark One's influence away from the threads.
Cauterize.
But because you needed that done, that just made the need for Egwene to come in and stabilize the pattern that much more critical. And I think if you hadn't have had the necrosis burned from the threads, you would not have. Yeah, the wheel done does what it done did. Yeah. If Balefire hadn't have done what it did do to the pattern, then I think Rand's attempts to patch it would have not been fully successful. There would have been a vulnerability. It would have been not completely. It wouldn't have been seamless like it turned out to be.
All right.
There would have still been some. There would have been some dirt in the wound. You didn't flush it out all the way.
Rub some dirt on it.
Yeah. So I think it wound up being a necessary component.
I remember that
because
as a kid. What'd you do? Did you skin your knee? Yeah, skin my knee. It hurts. Rub some dirt on it. Okay. Why? Just do it.
Yeah. Forces the coagulation of the blood, and you're young enough, your immune system will probably, get rid of whatever disease is in there. But
well,
we're not experts. We just blew a couple minds tonight. Morshada came in and dropped the ultimate knowledge bomb that the wheel done does what it done did.
Doing what he done do.
So instead of taking the Dark One's hole to the dock to steal it, you took it to Clyde down the street, and he can fix you up.
He can fix you up real nice. He'll fix you up real nice.
Look, he's gonna Balefire your bunghole a little bit, but Cousin Maud, she'll come right out. She'll hold it together, and we'll fix you right up. It'll be just like brand new.
Oh boy. Well, that's been a good evening. I like that. That was a good one.
This has been a lot of fun. We've had some amazing questions.
Yeah,
fantastic
ideas. You guys should tune in more often. What the hell?
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I mean, it's always a lot of fun, but this was like a lot of fun.
Super good. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being amazing. Thank you for maintaining eye contact while we dispense this week's dose of taint.
Prolonged eye contact.
Prolonged eye contact. From all of us here at the Black Tower, I have been your sort of unmahal Josh.
I got a Clyde, but his name is Daryl. Fix anything for 50
Here's
bucks.
Daryl, and here's my other brother, Daryl.
I have been your Bijan Mahal. My name's Andrew. And for those of you that are not already patrons, you should become patrons, because oftentimes after episodes, just like tonight, we'll be hanging out in Patreon chat for a little bit after this. So if you still have burning questions and comments, and you were listening live and you want to come talk about it,
doctor. Look, just if something,
call Clyde, man. Clyde will get on it right now.
Clyde will
in a jiffy. We'll get you fixed up right now, partner.
And wherever you are, we hope you leave here just a little bit more insane than you were when you first got here. Good night. And thank you. And be yourself with a little help from your friends.
What are we doing right now?
I don't know.
Did you click the button?